Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig Sports. This is the NFL DFS video for week number 2. In this video, I will be going through my player pools for both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you guys have any other specific questions related to NFL DFS for week number 2, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. I will also be posting up my cheat sheet on Facebook, on Twitter, on the YouTube community tab, so definitely on the lookout for that as well. Kind of breaks down things a little bit simpler, but in terms of this, what I'll be doing, going through this player pool, talking through each relevant player that I do have listed here. You know, if there's a quarterback here and you want to play one of the receiving options, they're not listed, you can definitely feel free to do that. It's just kind of a general player pool that I do have set up for NFL DFS for week number 2. This player pool will be listed on my Patreon page, so if there's any other like major relevant updates, we'll have it updated over there as well. But without further ado, we'll get started off with the DraftKings side. Starting off at the quarterback position, I got Lamar Jackson at the top, $7,700. Do like the upside that he could have versus this Raiders team this week overall. Like that rushing upside. Obviously, Lamar can have a game-breaking slate on any given week. And then we'll move down to Jared Goff, $6,400 going against Tampa Bay. Their secondary is pretty banged up at this point in time. They've had some trouble getting after the quarterback in recent seasons, so should be a pretty good matchup for Jared Goff just in general. And then we have Brock Purdy going against the Minnesota Vikings. Not really sure what to make of this Minnesota defense at this point in time. You know, we're not sure whether or not Christian McCaffrey plays. If he doesn't play, it could be a pretty decent game for Brock Purdy and company overall. Then we move down to Matthew Stafford, $6,000 going against the Arizona Cardinals. Do like this matchup quite a bit. The Cardinals have one of the worst secondaries in all of football. Like the upside that Matthew Stafford could have on any given slate, even without Puka Nacua in this matchup. And then last but not least, we have Justin Herbert, $5,800 going against the Carolina Panthers. Should be a very attractive matchup for Justin Herbert and company. You know, even if we look back to what the Panthers did last week, it was not good whatsoever. So do like that upside with Herbert and some of the receiving options that he does have. And then we move over to the running back position. We got Jonathan Taylor, $7,700 going against the Green Bay Packers. The Packers have struggled against the run in the past. We'll see whether or not that remains to be the case this season, but should be a favorable game environment for this Indianapolis Colts team, you know, especially with a backup quarterback for the Packers this week in Malik Willis. Then we move down to Breece Hall going against Tennessee Titans. Do like the upside that could be here just in general, $7,400. Decent price tag at the same time as well. Alvin Kamara is coming off a monster week 1, $7,000. He goes against the Dallas Cowboys, so not quite as favorable a matchup, but still definitely do like that upside if his ownership's low enough. Do want to get to a little bit of him. Kyren Williams going against the Arizona Cardinals. Anybody pretty much on this Rams team is going to look pretty good this week overall. Kyren Williams, $6,800. Definitely do want to get some ownership in him. James Conner quietly had a very good week number 1. Not really sure how this Rams team is going to be against the run so far this season. Obviously, some changes on the defensive line at the linebacker position, so James Conner do like his upside once again this week. Then we move down to Rachaad White, $6,300. Goes against the Detroit Lions. Could be a favorable game environment. You know, if they're trailing in this game, if it's kind of back and forth, could be a good opportunity for Rachaad White to catch some extra passes just in general. Ramondre Stevenson coming off a really strong week 1. Goes against Seattle Seahawks. We're going to see how well they do against the run this season. Obviously, some personnel changes from last year to this year. Wasn't the greatest versus them last year. So, do like that upside of Stevenson. Then we have Tony Pollard, $5,900. The Jets were unable to stop Jordan Mason and company on Monday night. So Tony Pollard, you know, if you want to play Tajay Spears, you could definitely do that as well. Should be some pretty decent upside to be had there. Then I have both Washington Commanders running backs listed going against the New York Giants. Not really sure how the Giants defense is going to be this year overall. Brian Robinson had a pretty strong week 1. Austin Eckler, obviously we know the type of upside that he could have on a given slate. Then we have Najee Harris going against the Denver Broncos. Broncos have struggled against the run in recent years, so if that's the case once again, if the Steelers are winning in this game, Najee Harris could have a decent game overall. Then we move down to J.K. Dobbins, who came off a monster week 1, $5,400. Gets a very, very attractive matchup versus the Carolina Panthers, who are without Derrick Brown, their best run defender, who was placed on IR earlier this week. And then we have Alexander Madison, who kind of took the lead role for the Las Vegas Raiders in week number 1. We'll see if that remains to be the case in week number 2. Probably a game script that they're trailing versus Baltimore as well. And then last but not least, we have Jordan Mason, the Monday Night Hero himself, $5,200 going against the Minnesota Vikings. Should be an attractive matchup if Christian McCaffrey is out once again. Then we move over to the wide receiver position. We got CeeDee Lamb, $8,800, primarily playing out of the slot, and that is the desired spot for attacking this New Orleans Saints secondary. Elante Taylor in the slot. not quite as good as Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo. He is their 1 weak link in terms of that cornerback room just in general. So definitely do like getting to CD Lamb once again this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown coming off a very poor week 1, $8,100. Definitely do like his upside versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that young kind of unproven secondary outside of Jamel Dean. Then we have Jamar Chase going against Kansas City. Should be a pretty interesting matchup. Pretty back and forth game, I would assume, especially coming off that poor week 1 for this Bengals team overall. They want to prove that they can hang with a team like the Chiefs. And then we got Cooper Kupp going against the Arizona Cardinals. Talked about Matthew Stafford. This Arizona secondary is not very good or very young and unproven for the most part. So definitely do like Cooper Kupp once again this week. Mike Evans going against Detroit, $7,500. Should be a pretty attractive matchup, probably against Terry and Arnold this week. So definitely do like his upside. If it's not Tyrion Arnold, it's his former teammate in Carlton Davis, who he knows very well. And then I have both San Francisco wide receivers listed here, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They are $6,800 and $6,500 respectively. Definitely do like the upside going against this Minnesota defense just in general. And then we move down to Amari Cooper. Very poor week 1, which I was kind of surprised by, but going against Jacksonville this week. Tyson Campbell's banged up, so Jacksonville's secondary is nothing to be scared of at this point in time. Then we get down to Chris Godwin, $6,000, going against the Detroit Lions. I definitely do like him in this matchup against the Lions coming out of the slot. And then we have Malik Neighbors going against the Washington Commanders, $5,900. Washington secondary is one of the worst in the entire NFL, so definitely do like his upside. And then opposite end of that game, Terry McLaurin, who I did like a lot week 1, didn't really end up panning out. Do like this matchup against that Giants secondary, though, because they are really not much to write home about at this point in time. Adam Thielen, kind of a sneaky play at $5,200. Going against Jair Tyler in the slot for the Chargers. Could be a decent matchup for him just in general. Probably wish he was a little bit cheaper, though. Christian Watson at $5,000. We're not sure what it's going to look like with Malik Willis, but definitely do like the potential upside if he can break off a long play against this Colts team. Jackson Smith and Jigba, liked him quite a bit week 1. Didn't ultimately end up paying out $4,900. Going against Marcus Jones in the Patriots in the slot this week overall. Could have a little bit of upside there. Rashid Shaheed. This is maybe one of my favorite plays this week, $4,600. Going against the Dallas Cowboys, Jordan Lewis in the slot is going to be a very favorable matchup for him. Then we have Alec Pierce, $4,500, going against Green Bay Packers. Going against Eric Stokes, if Josh Downs is out once again this week, there is high-end upside to be there. Probably a little bit 2-point chasey, but if it pays off, it's probably going to pay off in a pretty big way once again. Tyler Boyd, $4,400, going against Michael Carter II in the slot. That is where you want to attack the Jets just in general, so would not be surprised if he has a pretty solid week overall. Then we move down to DeMarcus Robinson. I'm also going to throw Tyler Johnson in here because they're both on the Rams. $4,000, $3,300, going against the Cardinals, going to look really good overall. Jalen McMillan, solid in week 1, $3,600. Not a bad matchup versus Detroit just in general. And then Alan Lazard, who played really well on Monday Night Football, had 2 touchdowns, I believe. Obviously has that chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, $3,300. Definitely could get to him as a paydown option this week as well. Then we get moved over to the tight end position. Obviously, we got the big dogs at the top. We got Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, George Kittle. All 4 of these guys are very viable. All 4 are in decently attractive matchups at the same time as well. So if you want to play any of those 4, definitely feel free to do that this week. Pat Freiermuth, not the greatest week 1, $4,100. Do like the matchup versus the Denver Broncos this week overall. Kate on the $3,600, maybe a sneaky play here. Didn't really do much week 1, $3,600 going against the Detroit Lions. If it's a back and forth game, if he gets a couple extra targets, could be pretty good overall. Colby Parkinson, like I mentioned, this Rams team, and they're everywhere. And he clearly has that tight end 1 role for them overall. Do like the matchup versus the Cardinals. If he gets in the end zone with the touchdown, could be pretty good overall. Jordan Akins playing in place of David Njoku, who's been already ruled out this week. Decent matchup versus Jacksonville Jaguars. As a Texans fan, I am inclined to say that I do not like Jordan Akins, and every time you think you can count on him, it usually goes pretty sour, but definitely worth mentioning here at the very least. And then we got Teo Johnson and Jatavian Sanders. Both are rookies. Both played a good amount in week 1. Both didn't do too much otherwise, though, and both have pretty attractive matchups going against the Commanders and Chargers this week overall. And then last but not least, we get moved over to the defenses. Jets defense, $3,800 going against the Tennessee Titans if they can get pressure on Malik Willis. Should be a pretty good game for them overall. Obviously looking for a big bounce back coming off that poor performance versus San Francisco 49ers in week number 1. Then we have the Baltimore Ravens going against the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders did not look very good week 1. So if the Ravens can shut down Devontae Adams and company, should be another good week for them. Then we have the 49ers, $3,600, coming off a decent performance versus the Jets. If they can get pressure on Sam Darnold, who they know pretty well, should be a pretty good week for them overall. Then we got this Pittsburgh Steelers going against the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix and company. Could be a pretty attractive matchup for them. Obviously, the Steelers are one of those teams that can generate pressure, and if they can do that to Bo Nix, should be a pretty favorable spot for them overall. The Indianapolis Colts, not sure I'm the biggest fan of their defense, but going against the Packers and Malik Willis looks like a pretty attractive spot just in general. Then we have the Seattle Seahawks. I like their defense to an extent, but they're going against the Patriots. Should be a pretty favorable matchup for them this week overall. Denver Broncos, remains to be seen what their defense is going to look like overall this year, but you're going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We don't know what we're going to get out of them on offense in any given week, whether that's Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. Could be opportunities we had there. And then last but not least, we have the Tennessee Titans. $2,700, improved defense. We'll see what they do versus the Jets this week overall, but kind of a pay-down option just in general that could ultimately end up having a little bit of upside. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of the DraftKings side. We'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my player pool over there as well. So on the FanDuel side, we're going to see a lot of similarities here. I'm going to try to go through it maybe just a little bit quicker, but we're going to start off with Lamar Jackson, $8,800. Going against the Raiders, has some pretty decent upside. Obviously has that rushing upside and that slate-breaking upside on any given slate. Because we have Sunday Night Football on the FanDuel side, we have CJ Stroud here as well, $8,200. I know some people are a little bit afraid of this matchup, but I am particularly not one of those people. So definitely do like CJ Stroud and company this week overall. Obviously, I'm a Texans fan, but I do like the upside that they could potentially have. Jared Goff going against Tampa Bay, banged up secondary. A lot of opportunities that could be had there if they can protect him once again this week. $7,800. Definitely do like his upside. Justin Herbert going against the Carolina Panthers, $7,600. We know what this Panthers defense looks like at this point in time. Justin Herbert does have a ton of upside in this matchup. Then we got Matthew Stafford going against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals secondary leaves a lot to be desired at this point in time. This Cardinals defense probably leaves a lot to be desired as well. So definitely do like Matthew Stafford and this Rams team overall, especially in terms of stacking. And then last but not least, threw Joe Burrow on here on FanDuel because he is relatively cheap. $7,400 goes against Kansas City Chiefs this week. If this game turns into a shootout, he could be a very good pay-down option at that quarterback position. In terms of the running backs, we got Breece Hall, $8,500. Going against the Titans could be in a decently attractive matchup for him overall. Jonathan Taylor, $8,200. Going against the Packers. Packers have struggled to stop the run in recent seasons, so would not be surprised if that's the case once again this year. Then we move down to Joe Mixon. $8,100 is more than I would like to pay for Joe Mixon. I'm going to start off by saying that. But I definitely do like the upside versus this Bears defense just in general. Then we move down to Kyren Williams, $8,000. He's a Rams player. Any Rams player is going to be available to play this week overall. And at the same time, Kyren Williams really commanded the lead share in this backfield, which was something we were kind of uncertain about, but definitely did look pretty good overall. Alvin Kamara coming off a strong week one, $7,800, goes against the Cowboys. A little bit tougher defense this week, but does have some serious upside at the same time as well. Rashad White, if this game turns into kind of back and forth or where they're trailing, should get some dump-off opportunities there as well against this Detroit Lions team. Ramondre Stevenson coming off a really strong week number one, $6,900, goes against the Seattle Seahawks defense that struggled against the run last year. We'll see whether or not that will be the case as the season moves forward this year as well. J.K. Dobbins coming off a very, very strong week number one, goes against the Carolina Panthers. No Derek Brown. He's on IR at this point in time. Should be a very favorable matchup for him. Tony Pollard versus the New York Jets, who really struggle to stop the run versus Jordan Mason and company. If the Titans line can block whatsoever, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears could both be in play this week overall. James Conner, I definitely do like him quite a bit this week, kind of as a lower tier option here at $6,500. Goes against the Rams. Rams' defensive line, linebacker unit is still relatively young and improving, so we'll see what that looks like this week overall. And then we have both Washington Commanders running backs, Brian Robinson Jr., $6,200. Austin Eckler, $5,900. Both have decent upside versus the Giants this week overall. And then we have Alexander Madison, $5,800. Was the lead back for this Raiders team overall last week. We'll see whether or not that's the case once again this week. And then last but not least, we got Jordan Mason, $5,500. If Christian McCaffrey's out once again, he's going to look like a very, very good cash game play at $5,500 versus the Minnesota Vikings, who have a less than stellar defense and in a very positive game environment. And then we move over to wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, $9,100. As I mentioned on DraftKings, if you're going to attack the New Orleans Saints, it's going to be through the slot. CeeDee Lamb primarily playing out of the slot once again this season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, $9,000, going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Relatively young and improving secondary outside of Jamel Dean, so do like Amon-Ra St. Brown for a bounce back in a big way this week overall. Jamar Chase, $8,700, goes against the Chiefs. If this game is back and forth, should be a pretty attractive spot for him just in general. Mike Evans, $8,000, probably going against Tyrion Arnold or his former teammate in Carlson Davis, and I do definitely like his upside in both matchups either way. Cooper Kupp, $7,700, coming off that really strong week number 1, goes against Garrett Williams in the slot for the Arizona Cardinals. Any wide receiver for the Rams this week versus the Cardinals is going to look pretty good just in general, so definitely do like him. Stephon Diggs going against the Chicago Bears. I like the upside of Stephon Diggs, who was actually operating primarily out of the slot in week number 1. And then we move down to the San Francisco 49ers wide receivers, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, 73 at $7,300 and $7,000 respectively. A lot of upside to be had against this Minnesota Vikings team just in general. Malik Neighbors, $6,400. Washington Commanders do have one of the worst secondaries in all of the NFL, so definitely do like the upside that could be there, if Daniel Jones plays a relatively somewhat decent game. And then we got Amari Cooper, kind of a downfall in week number 1, $6,300. Like his upside. Goes against Jacksonville Jaguars. Tyson Campbell's banged up, so we'll see whether or not he plays or not. But outside of him, not really worried in terms of that Jaguars secondary. Then we got Chris Godwin, a very attractive matchup versus the Detroit Lions, operating out of the slot, $6,200. Definitely do like his upside. Then there's Tank Dell at $6,100. Like his matchup against the Bears, but like if Nico Collins is out and like Tank Dell gets shadowed by Jalen Johnson or something like that, then maybe that would be a little bit less, but definitely do like him in general. Christian Watson, $5,700. If you can get a big play out of him and Malik Willis versus the Colts, should be a pretty good one overall. And then we move down to Rashid Shaheed, one of my favorite plays across the board this week. Goes against the Dallas Cowboys, Jordan Lewis in the slot, very attractive matchup there. Adam Thielen versus Jasir Taylor in the slot for the Chargers. Not a guy that I'm going to go out of my way to play, but might get a little bit of him here and there. And then last but not least, the 2 Rams wide receivers, Demarcus Robinson, $5,200, and Tyler Johnson, $4,000. Going against the Cardinals, should be a pretty good matchup for them both overall once again this week. Then we move over to the tight end position. We got the same 4 guys at the top as we do on DraftKings. Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Trey McBride. You can play any 4 of these guys this week. Also, most of them do have decent matchups this week just in general. Pat Freiermuth versus Denver, $5,400. Like the matchup. We'll see if it's Justin Fields or Russell Wilson at quarterback. If it's Russell Wilson, I probably like Pat Freiermuth more. If it's Justin Fields, probably like him a little bit less. Colby Parkinson, $4,800. The tight end one for the Los Angeles Rams going against the Arizona Cardinals. Could be some upside with him. Jordan Akins filling in for David Njoku, $4,700. First Jacksonville. I don't like counting on Jordan Akins ever because it always seems to be that he lets us down when we think we can count on him. And this is coming from a former Texans fan, but if you want to roll him out, he's relatively cheap. Then we have the 2 rookie tight ends once again, Davian Sanders, Theo Johnson at $4,600 and $4,500 respectively. Both have pretty decent matchups going against the Chargers and Commanders this week overall. Then last but not least, we're getting over to the defenses, Jets versus the Tennessee Titans. If they can get pressure on Will Levis at $5,000, could be some pretty significant upside there. Steelers going against the Denver Broncos. If they can get after Bo Nix and company, $4,900 should be some decent upside there as well. The Ravens going against the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders did not look very good in week number 1. If you can shut down Devontae Adams, this Raiders offense probably isn't going to be doing too much. The Ravens are $4,800. Then we move down to the San Francisco 49ers, $4,700, coming off a pretty strong performance versus the New York Jets. Goes against the Minnesota Vikings this week. Mainly you got to shut down Justin Jefferson, maybe a little bit of Aaron Jones. But if they can get after Sam Darnold, make him see those ghosts once again, should be a pretty good matchup for them overall. Colts kind of middle of the pack here. We got them going against the Packers. Malik Willis at quarterback, $4,500. Does definitely offer some upside just in general. Then we have the Chargers. I like them against the Panthers this week. You could probably play them on DraftKings as well, although they're not on my sheet over there. $4,400. Definitely some decent upside if they can get pressure on Bryce Young once again this week. Then I do have the Texans here going against the Chicago Bears. Keenan Allen's banged up. Roman Dunze's banged up. Caleb Williams didn't look that great week number 1, so if that Texans defense holds strong once again this week, $4,100 could definitely be in play. Got the Seattle Seahawks, $4,000 going against the New England Patriots. Jacoby Brissett and company, they did win week number 1, but their offense still probably left a little bit to be desired. So definitely do like the upside of that Seahawks defense, like most of their personnel just in general. We got the Rams, $3,500 versus the Cardinals. If they can get after Kyler Murray, if they can stop the run, should be pretty good for them overall this week. Then we have the New York Giants going against the Commanders. Same thing could be said here. If you can get after Jaden Daniels, going to be a pretty good matchup. I think they have the pass rushers to be able to do it this week overall. You could definitely play them on DraftKings as well. And then we have the Tennessee Titans, $3,300, going against the New York Jets, who did struggle mightily versus the 49ers in week number 1. If this improved Titans defense can just be adequate, decent little pay down option just in general. But with that being said, that's a quick little rundown of my player pool for NFL DFS for both FanDuel and DraftKings for week number 2. As always, if you have any questions related to NFL DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Once again, this sheet will be constantly updated on my Patreon page, so definitely feel free to check it out over there. And then my cheat sheets will be posted up on Facebook, on Twitter, and on the YouTube community tab, so be on the watch for them as well. Will be a little bit condensed version of this player pool just in general. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have CFL DFS coming out once a week, typically on Thursdays. I know this week it did come out on Wednesday. And then I do have this video as well, my NFL DFS player pool video coming out once a week as well. Typically, it's going to be coming out on Saturdays. Sometimes it might come out on Friday. This week, I had to bump it all the way up to Thursday. So hopefully you guys all enjoyed. Hopefully you find all this information useful as you're building out your lineups. If you have any other specific questions whatsoever, do not hesitate to reach out, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for Prize Picks, Parlay Play, and BetUS. If you're a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for this week's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day, no matter what day you're watching this on. A good weekend overall, and some really good luck in the NFL DFS for week number 2.